my husband's 40th birthday celebration in the glittering plaza ballroom, everything changed in an instant. His mother, Eleanor, stood at the head table, clinked her champagne flute with a silver knife, and in a voice dripping with false sorrow, announced to 200 of New York's elite, "Vivian has been unfaithful for years." The room froze. Crystal glasses hovered midair, every head turned toward me. My husband Marcus's hand clenched so hard around his flute that it shattered, sending shards across the white tablecloth. Before I could open my mouth to respond, he grabbed my arm with bruising force and shoved me backward. I stumbled, crashed into the towering dessert table, and fell hard onto the cold marble floor. Layers of cake, whipped cream, and champagne rained down on my burgundy gown, soaking through the silk and sticking to my skin. I lay there for a heartbeat, surrounded by the ruins of sugar flowers and broken porcelain. Marcus turned away without a word, stepping into his mother's waiting arms as she stroked his back like a comforting mother. That's when I started laughing. Not a hysterical sob, not broken crying, just a slow, deep, knowing chuckle that rose from my chest and rolled through the stunned silence like thunder in a quiet room. Marcus froze mid-step. Eleanor's perfect mask cracked for the first time in 3 years. I saw it clearly. Fear. The morning had begun so ordinarily in our Central Park penthouse. Gray November light poured through floor-to-ceiling windows that cost more than most people's homes. I was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed we hadn't shared intimately in almost 2 years, when Marcus stepped out of his private bathroom trailing steam. At 40, he still looked like the man who had charmed me at a charity gala 7 years earlier. Tall, dark hair, now silvering at the temples, that sharp jaw that once made headlines. But his eyes had gone empty after his father died 3 years ago. "Happy birthday," I said, keeping my tone light and warm. He bent, brushed cool lips against my cheek. "Mother's excited about tonight," he said flatly, the words sounding rehearsed. I forced a smile. "She's outdone herself this time. The Plaza Ballroom, 200 guests, that string quartet flown in from Vienna." He nodded absently, already scrolling his phone. I knew his patterns by heart now. Quick swipes meant normal messages. Slow, deliberate typing meant he was texting Eleanor. Right now, it was slow and deliberate. I excused myself to my dressing room, the one space in our home without her hidden cameras. 2 years earlier, she claimed a break-in attempt and insisted on installing surveillance everywhere. I discovered the tiny lenses months later in smoke detectors, picture frames, even the antique clock above our bed. I left them running, but I became expert at performing exactly what she wanted to see, the devoted, obedient daughter-in-law. But behind a false panel I'd secretly installed, hidden behind a biometric lock only I could open, lay my real life. 3 burner phones, 2 encrypted laptops, external hard drives holding over 4,000 files, documents, photos, audio recordings, bank transfers, my insurance policy, my weapon. My name is Vivian Chen Ashford. I'm 42. I used to be a federal prosecutor, putting away financial criminals, cult leaders, traffickers. I left the Department of Justice to marry into one of New York's oldest families. When I met Marcus, I thought I'd found real love. He was kind, idealistic, determined to use his family's wealth for genuine good. Eleanor seemed welcoming at first, the gracious matriarch. The mask slipped 3 weeks after our wedding, the day his father Richard died of what the family doctor called a heart attack. I later proved it was potassium chloride injected by that same doctor who received $5 million from an Ashford shell company 2 days later. Richard had been planning to divorce Eleanor. He discovered she wasn't just controlling. She was the architect of a decades-long empire of fraud, bribery, manufactured scandals, and the quiet destruction of anyone who threatened her power. After Richard's death, Eleanor turned her full attention to Marcus. Weekly grief therapy sessions with Dr. Harold Vance, a psychiatrist she handpicked. Within 6 months, the warm, independent man I loved had vanished. He became distant, compliant, repeating her phrases, echoing her opinions. He signed over power of attorney, moved foundation assets into accounts she controlled. I watched it happen because pattern recognition was my job for 15 years. I knew psychological manipulation when I saw it, so I started collecting proof, quietly, methodically. Payments to Vance totaling over $2 million, disguised as consulting fees. Old research papers he'd written on behavioral modification, techniques the psychological community had condemned. Shell companies funneling foundation money into her private accounts. Bribes to officials. A previous daughter-in-law who died in a car accident after trying to leave. A pattern of 40 years, all pointing to one truth. Eleanor Ashford was a predator, and now she was erasing her own son to keep total control. For 3 years, I built the case in secret. FBI contacts stood ready. My evidence package was set on a dead man's switch tied to my phone. One act of violence, one wrong move, and it would flood federal authorities, major news outlets, every inbox that mattered. Tonight, I knew, was her endgame. I'd seen the signs. Secret lawyer meetings, Marcus growing more vacant, the way she watched me like she was measuring for a grave. I chose a deep burgundy gown instead of the pale blue Dior she'd gifted me. A tiny act of defiance that kept me sane. The ballroom sparkled under crystal chandeliers. Politicians, financiers, judges, all people who owed Eleanor favors or feared her. No one from my old life was invited. She glided over in silver Chanel, eyes narrowing at my dress. I expected the blue. I wanted to surprise everyone, I replied sweetly. During cocktails, I drifted close enough to overhear her attorney whispering, "Documentation's complete. Once the announcement lands, conservatorship filing Monday. If she contests, the instability evidence will bury her." The fake affair claim was only step one, to humiliate me publicly so any future accusations would sound like the ravings of a broken woman. Dinner began. Eleanor rose, tapped her glass. "Marriage is sacred," she began, voice thick with rehearsed grief. "That's why it pains me to reveal what I've discovered about the woman my son married." She held up her phone, a photo of me hugging my old colleague, Michael, at his wife's birthday party, angled to look intimate. Gasps rippled. She leaned to Marcus. "Remember your duty. Protect what's ours." His eyes went flat. "Is this true?" he demanded. "Marcus, listen," I said calmly. "That photo is from a family party. I can prove it. Your mother has manipulated everything." "Liar," she hissed. Then he grabbed me, shoved. I hit the table. Silence swallowed the room, but I rose, brushed cake from my ruined dress, and laughed again, clear, triumphant. "Thank you, Eleanor. You just gave me everything I needed." I addressed the crowd. "You all just watch Marcus Ashford, under his mother's direct command, physically assault his wife, on camera, in front of 200 witnesses." Phones lit up as my evidence package arrived in inboxes. Proof of Richard's murder, 3 years of coercive programming on Marcus, 400 million laundered through fake charities. "Check your emails," I said. Notifications chimed everywhere. Eleanor screamed, "She's unhinged." But Marcus stared at his trembling hands. What did I just do?" Memories flooded back, sessions with Vance, forced repetitions, videos that made independent thought feel wrong. "That's the conditioning breaking," I told him gently. "She programmed you like a prisoner of war." FBI agents entered. "Eleanor Ashford, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, racketeering, fraud, money laundering." They cuffed her. Vance tried to slip out. They stopped him too. Marcus sank into a chair, shaking. "Why did you stay?" he whispered later. "Because I loved who you were before she erased you," I said, "and because someone had to stop her. from doing this to anyone else. 8 months later, Eleanor received 34 years. Vance turned state's evidence, got 12, lost his license forever. The Ashford Foundation dissolved, recovered assets went to victims. Marcus spent 6 months in a specialized recovery program for coercive control survivors. Outside the courthouse, he looked lighter, real. "It's over," he said. We sat on a park bench by the river. He joined the advisory board of a new foundation helping others escape psychological abuse. "I want to tell my story publicly," he said. "Men especially need to hear this can happen to anyone." I told him I'd started a legal advocacy group for victims. Our marriage remained open, no rush, no closure yet. But when he took my hand, it felt voluntary, warm, alive. 6 months after that, the Marcus Ashford Foundation for Psychological Freedom held its first gala, not in a gilded ballroom, but a Brooklyn community center. Coffee, homemade desserts, real survivors in the seats. Marcus spoke publicly for the first time. His voice shook, describing the sessions, the programming, but grew steady as he talked about recovery and reclaiming himself. People approached him afterward, men, women, families who finally understood. Later he found me. "What about us, Vivian?" I answered honestly. "We need more time, more healing, but I don't want to close any doors." He smiled, the first real smile in years. "Not closing doors. Maybe that's enough for now." Eleanor's empire of control and lies had collapsed. In its ruins, something beautiful grew. Truth, healing, second chances. What began as my desperate fight for survival became hope for thousands. And that, more than anything, was worth every hidden file, every sleepless night, every moment I chose to stay. If this story of survival, truth, and quiet strength moved you, if you believe stories like this deserve to be told and shared, then please hit that subscribe button right now. It's completely free, and it helps us keep bringing these powerful, real-life inspired journeys to you every week. Turn on notifications so you never miss one. Thank you for being here with us. Let's keep building this community together. See you in the next story.